Hi and welcome to SCW, the wrestling channel here on YouTube.com. Thank you for choosing the channel and choosing the video. Please subscribe right now. Leave any comments in the comment section. Please like and share the video as well. Going to be talking at WWE Stomping Grounds, the new pay-per-view this weekend. Going to go through all the matches and give my predictions for the show. Going to try and keep this one quite brief because WWE, for me, it's been very lackluster. A lot of the feuds here going into this have felt like it's been more of a chore than to look forward to, unfortunately. So I'm going to try and keep the negatives to a minimum and focus more on the positives. But if you want to get into the predictions, I will start that in about a minute or two's time. I am going to focus on a couple of negatives first. Like I said, the build-up for me overall, up until this week, we had 5 matches announced for the card, and all matches had been rematches. The exception of one that had been recent was Bayley and Alexa Bliss, which was 2 years ago. But every other match has been within the last month or in the last couple of weeks. And for me, it just felt to myself like, oh, God, it's a bit of a repeat card here, a bit of a rerun. We've had some extra matches added into the card this week, or certainly with the 205 match perhaps kind of teased last week. So we've got a couple of other matches added to the card that maybe we haven't seen before. It adds a little bit more excitement to the undercard, but for me it's just felt a bit lackluster. Going for the name as well, Stomping Grounds, for me it's just, I don't understand what the purposes of this name. I understand that sometimes you need to have new pay-per-views rather than going nostalgic. I personally would love King of the Ring to come back. I think it'd be a great placeholder for this sort of time of year. You could have your King of the Ring tournament, get your number one contender set for SummerSlam. I always think it's good to, if you can't write good stories, to at least have a good purpose of making a number one contender for the next big pay-per-view. And King of the Ring is one of those ways you could do that. You can use both shows as well. It doesn't matter with the wild card factor either, which is already kind of been done to death now. We've got about 15 trades each show. It's almost to the point now it's the same people on both shows and not on the brand split like it was originally meant to be. So with a couple of additional additions to the wild card, basically the Roman Reigns factor. But it's almost now every main feud or every feud that's going towards a pay-per-view seems to be on both shows, and all these guys that are fighting to get TV time to begin with are not getting any at all. But you know, looking at Stomping Grounds as well as the name itself, I don't understand it. It doesn't do anything for me. Like before, it was supposed to be Backlash, and that kind of understood here. A lot of rematches, a lot of revenge needed. That makes sense, but this is just Stomping Grounds. There's not really much there. You know, you can have all these classic and great names, but this is just Stomping Grounds. It's a bit of a dull name, not really much to it. So yeah, I mean, this has been struggling with ticket sales as well, and really it's no surprise here. You know, WWE are probably going to pull one out of the bag. They're probably going to have some interesting things that might actually happen on the show, which we've not quite seen in the build-up. So let's go into the matches. Let's be more positive, and let's start on a positive note. And it's going to sound weird when I say the match that I'm going to begin with. It is going to be the Universal Championship, Seth Rollins versus Baron Corbin. Now you're saying, why is this a positive? Because Baron Corbin is going to actually have a special guest referee of his choice, and we've actually had one good week of good teasing about this, where we still don't know who that referee is going to be, and it almost circulates the whole point of the match. Is Corbin going to have someone really to his advantage? Is it somewhere going to get screwed up where it's still Seth Rollins? Is it going to be someone with a briefcase? Maybe we could have a Brock party on our hands. I think that's the most likely, because Seth Rollins has taken out every person that's potentially going to be given, you know, that role as the special guest referee with a steel chair, including Corbin himself has been actually taken out with a steel chair on more than one occasion. Brock has been taken out with a steel chair, but it was on a cash-in attempt, and it just feels that Brock Lesnar is big enough, strong enough to actually stop you know, Seth Rollins from attacking with a chair before the match begins. And if it's done on the spot, it's just going to add some intrigue. Will there be a cash-in? Won't there be a cash-in? You know, how will Brock use that to his advantage? So I think Brock Lesnar is quite likely going to be the referee. I can't think of any other potentials that they may do instead, especially this probably is going to be one of the main events on the card, but we'll have to wait and see. So Brock Lesnar's prediction for the referee, I still feel somehow Seth Rollins is going to retain here as Universal Champion. I don't know if he's going to be cashed in on afterwards, and certainly it would be interesting if that was the case, because if Brock was the referee, we did need another referee to actually make that call, and if he was to cash in the briefcase, what sort of power does that give him? I know that would be kind of stupid, but with WWE's booking recently, nothing surprises me. But I think Seth Rollins will win over Baron Corbin, that's for sure. Whether there be a cash-in or not afterwards, it remains to be seen. That is one of the more intriguing things in WWE right now, because although it's been promised and been let down, we've now been told it's going to happen when we least expect it. And for me, I kind of like it that way. So that makes that a bit more interesting for me. And if Brock was to cash in Extreme Rules, the match is set between Rollins and Brock once again. Maybe an Extreme Rules match, maybe a chair match. Something like that would probably work going well down the line. So there we go. We're looking at the present, which is slightly positive with the way it's been done, and to the future, potential positive around the Universal Championship picture. Next, we'll look at the steel cage match. Kofi Kingston defending the WWE Championship against Dolph Ziggler. It should have been me, but it is indeed Dolph Ziggler in the steel cage going for the championship. Now, I've enjoyed Dolph Ziggler's work here. It's been kind of good, minus the Super Showdown match itself, which was actually the main letdown for me with this in recent weeks, but overall I've been pretty okay with it. I do think that Kofi Kingston is going to retain the championship. There's not too much to say on it. The best rumour I've seen online, which I've seen on Twitter, which is something I would have perhaps suggested in my more adventurous booking days, is that Big E would turn on Kofi Kingston and go back to the side of Dolph Ziggler. Remember when Big E actually debuted, he was actually a bodyguard for Dolph Ziggler many, many years ago, and it would be interesting if that was a way that he could get Ziggler as the champion and a Kofi versus Big E title feud, but I don't see that happening. I think it's going to be quite simply Kofi Kingston here retaining the WWE Championship in the cage. Whether it be escape or pinfall, we'll have to wait and see, but Kofi for me remains WWE Champion. One that I'm not so sure of is the Raw Women's Championship, Becky Lynch versus Lacey Evans. Now, Becky Lynch got the best of Evans on the show before we go to the pay-per-view, which usually, I say this every time, usually the person that has the upper hand going into the pay-per-view doesn't always come out on top. In fact, more times than not, they end up being the loser when it comes to the show itself. Now, for me as well, Becky Lynch, I don't know what's happened, but she seems to have lost a lot of steam. Now, a lot of people are still on board with Becky, and I still support Becky, but at the same time, I just have this feeling that the person that you want to see as the champion is normally better when they're chasing the belt. Steve Austin, Stone Cold, the greatest of probably, draw of all time when it comes to that sort of thing. Never really had long, lengthy championship runs. The only one he had really long and lengthy in WWE that I can remember was when he was a heel. Every time he was a face and the big star of the company, they found a way to get the belt off of Austin so he could chase it once again. And that was the way to keep people hooked, because Austin going for the belt, the biggest star, people wanted to see him win the championship. So I wonder if the championship is going to change hands and they could perhaps put a bit more steam back into Becky. Becky 2 belts goes to Becky no belts in a couple of months, needs to find a way to get back. And rumours are this feud is actually expected to continue on further. So if it's going to carry on further another month, 2 months, then we need something to really spice this up. And I think a title change could be the way to go. Lacey Evans, I know she's not popular with all, but I think she's doing pretty well on the main roster so far. I love her promo work. Her in-ring work is improving with every match that she has. So I hope that she will continue to be a success story on the main roster. And I think I'm going to predict she's going to win the belt. I think it's going to happen. We'll have to wait and see. Next, we'll look at the SmackDown Women's Championship. Bayley defending against Alexa Bliss. It's the second time this is happening, actually. The wild card factor where someone from one show is challenging for a... Well, no, it is the first time. It is the first time. The Usos did take on before the SmackDown Tag Team Champions Daniel Bryan and Rowan, but the belts were not on the line, which is why the Usos won on a kickoff show. This time the championship's on the line, so this is actually the first time it's happening. And you do wonder, maybe at some point this will happen where a champion will lose to someone from another show and there will be like conflict. Will Bliss be on SmackDown, or will she still be on Raw and the belts on both shows, or could she just be a wild card every week? It would be interesting to see how it would play out, but for me, Bayley has only just won the belt here, and I think they have done a good job in rebuilding Bayley in the last few months. She's had a good 2019, if we're being brutally honest. I think Bayley is going to retain here, but although, as we say, a great conflict between these two on the Motor Bliss on SmackDown. I really enjoyed that with Bayley and Alexa Bliss this week. Definitely one of the positives going into this. And Alexa Bliss saying that "you peaked in NXT" was a fantastic line, really good. Alexa won the battle with the words, but I don't think she's going to win the war when it comes to Stomping Grounds. Next, we'll look at Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre and snore, snore, snore. The problem with this feud is not really the people in it. It's not really the Shane McMahon factor in it either. It's the fact that all three of them have been on almost every single show for a big chunk of TV time. Overexposed is what I'm going to say about this very quickly and very briefly. Apart from that, not so much wrong, but overexposed, and they are putting all people in harm here involved with this storyline going forward, because people are sick of seeing Shane McMahon. They're going to get sick of Roman Reigns. And Drew McIntyre is not coming out from it great either. He's seen as a lackey with Shane McMahon, and if he doesn't win here, he can't do what Shane McMahon could do, even though he was the reason Shane won to begin with. It's interesting because the rumour going around, if you're to believe ringsidenews.com, is that Roman Reigns will be facing at Extreme Rules Drew McIntyre and Shane McMahon in a 2-on-1 match. It's probably some form of Extreme Rules match as well. We'll have to see what the stipulation will be added. But it makes you wonder if Roman Reigns would need revenge on both guys. And if that was the case, could Shane cost Roman Reigns the match so that Drew wins this time? That's the prediction I'm going, because Roman Reigns, for me, doesn't need the win at this point. I think he needs the win when the feud closes, which I'm hoping will be Extreme Rules. But if you were to ask me, I would be quite happy for it to finish this Sunday, just purely because the guys have been overexposed and the feud has gone too far for me. It's just how I feel. And I feel sorry for Elias as well. He's been very buried in this situation. He's losing a lot of matches, even though he's not involved in this particular card here. He hasn't done so well since going over to SmackDown Live, in my personal opinion. Next, we'll look at the United States Championship match, which will be Samoa Joe defending against Ricochet. Not so much to say about this one. Ricochet winning a fatal 5-way elimination match to get to this point, which would make you think it would be nice if he could win the belt as well. But I don't see that happening. Ricochet had a small altercation with Samoa Joe on Raw, got the best of it. I think at the moment, Joe is probably a good holder for the US Championship, could do quite a lot with it. So let's see him go through some of these mid-carders. And I think that this should be a solid match, potentially even an opener to the card. I'm looking forward to it. It should be a good match, but I'm going to go for Samoa Joe to retain. Next, a look at the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. Daniel Bryan and Rowan going to defend against Heavy Machinery. Now, looking at this quickly, I think there's more mileage in the rivalry, if I'm brutally honest. We've not seen the steak and weights rundown from Daniel Bryan, which, of course, being a vegan, being anti-meat, maybe it's repetitiveness from old previous promos, but you think that would have been the natural feud here with Daniel Bryan and Heavy Machinery, but that's not quite come along. And there's not really many tag teams on SmackDown Live either, which makes you wonder if this has got a bit more mileage in it. Now, when we say mileage, it's something that maybe we do or don't want to see. I'm not so invested in it, if I'm brutally honest. One thing I did find exciting on SmackDown Live is we saw AOP backstage, which makes you believe they're going to be on SmackDown going forward. But of course, they're heels, so they won't be in the championship run anytime soon when I tell you that I predict Daniel Bryan and Rowan to pick up the victory here. Now, my feeling is it's not going to be a clean win. Maybe some sort of way to cheat their way to victory. This way you can perhaps lead them on to a rematch coming onto the next pay-per-view where they've got that little bit of room for the extra mileage and promo work between the two teams. But I do feel in the long run here that this is just a stopgap before Daniel Bryan and Rowan go on to challengers that are more likely to take the belts off of them. Two guys that could be potential that are Big E and Xavier Woods of the New Day, which would seem quite likely to be taking on Daniel Bryan and Rowan at some point, but they're going to be on this event against Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Shall I say Jobber Zayn or Sami Jobber? He's lost so many times in the last few weeks. I feel really bad for him. Again, to Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, both overexposed, both on different shows, but seem to be teaming up every single week now, but losing. Even 2 out of 3 fall matches, they're losing straight. They're not even getting a fall in. So I feel sorry for them. And maybe that makes you think, well, maybe they get some revenge on the pay-per-view. Maybe that's the time they're going to get themselves back in. I don't have faith in WWE for that sort of booking. And I actually believe as well that if we're going to book some challenges for Daniel Bryan and Rowan going forward, if they get over Heavy Machinery, it only makes sense for the New Day to pick up the win. So let's go for Big E and Xavier Woods. Last but not least, let's go for the Cruiserweight Championship. Tony Nese versus Akira Tozawa and Drew Gulak in a triple threat match. Now, this is probably more likely going to be a kickoff match. It's not been announced at the time of me doing the video. But looking at it, let's say it's going to be on the main pay-per-view like the last time where the Cruiserweight Championship match, which was Tony Nese and Akira, which was Daivari. Those were the guys that were in the match last time. And the fans just didn't seem invested, didn't seem to care. And I don't think a lot of time has been put on main TV for Nese and for Daivari, where we look at this now. We have a triple threat match where Tozawa has had a lot of time on Raw, a previous Cruiserweight champion when the Cruiserweight Championship was on Raw. Drew Gulak got a lot of exposure as well on Raw, spent some time in NXT also. I feel that fans are going to be a bit more familiar with this match, and I think it's got a potential to be a good match as well, being a triple threat as well. So let's break it down and see where I think it's going to be going forward. I guess I don't get a chance to talk about 205 Live, so we'll take a couple of minutes on this one. I think the end game here is for Tony Nese and Drew Gulak to go against each other in a one-on-one match. So I think Tozawa takes the fall. And to make things more exciting, Tony Nese for me has not been an exciting Cruiserweight champion. And although I think he will retain, I actually am going to make the prediction that I think Gulak is going to walk away here by pinning Tozawa, because then Nese has already made a rematch because of the fact he wasn't even involved in the decision. How unfair. We could see a hot potato with the championship maybe once or twice, because I think Mike Kanellis is going to be the Cruiserweight champion. Give it another 3 to 4 months most. They signed a new deal with the company. They're starting to really build him on backstage with the promos and stuff like that, challenging Drake Maverick as well, like not doing his job properly, of course. And props, by the way, to Drake Maverick becoming 24/7 champion. Very entertaining stuff. But looking at it, I mean, maybe we could have a couple of exciting title changes here, just to give a little bit of unpredictability to the Cruiserweight division, because right now it feels a bit dry, it feels a bit stale, it needs just a little bit of something. So for me personally, I'm going to say Drew Gulak, although I wouldn't be surprised if Tony Nese retains, and I'm completely wrong. But Gulak here will win, beating Tozawa, and then we'll get a match between Nese and Gulak at the next pay-per-view, which I wouldn't be surprised then if the belt went back to Nese at some point, for then to drop it to Mike Kanellis down the line. But we're focusing on Stomping Grounds. Drew Gulak is my prediction. So there you have it. That's everything then for WWE Stomping Grounds on my preview and predictions. Thank you for watching. Do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and let me know your comments in the comments below. I would love to know your predictions for the show. Are you excited about it? Are you not? Let me know about those details as well. Would you prefer this was Backlash? Would you prefer it not happen at all? I mean, it is only 2 weeks since we had a pay-per-view, and it's only 3 weeks to the next one. Feels a bit overkill for me. I don't know how it feels for you. But let me know your feelings anyway. This is SCW, and as well, you can also follow on Twitter, SCW Wrestling Channel, which is at SCW_Steve, yeah, you can get in touch with me on there as well. And I'm constantly tweeting now. I'm very much into the Twitter game now, and definitely happy to interact if you want to on there. If not, you can do it in the comment section of this video, and I'll happily give a chat with you as well. But that's all from me. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time here on YouTube.com.